I always wait. Hello, so I'm pleased to be here and want to welcome you all to the Gallatin Fashion Show Without Walls. And as you know, the theme for this year's show is the 50th anniversary of Gallatin, so 1972 to 2022. It's also a great event because the last time I went to an event in Gallatin was the 2020 fashion show. So it sort of marks the beginning of the pandemic, and hopefully this marks us coming out into another kind of world. So I just want to say a few brief words about fashion from 72 and some of the ideas that about fashion that might be more relevant today, and some of the changes that might have happened. So Gallatin of course started in 72, and it was the University Without Walls, and it really came into being during a time of youthful energy, both in terms of the world in general and also in terms of the world of fashion. So 1972 is very much a period where we're still seeing the influence of young entrepreneurs, young designers, fashion boutiques, and also an interest in vintage, which I think is also something that a lot of these qualities we see in fashion today. There's also, in 1972 fashion, this sense of a world where it could go into many different directions. So some of this, I think this uncertainty and qualified optimism is something that we might also think about being relevant today. So 1970s fashion, as we know, is generally considered a decade of somewhat bad taste, but 72 to me seems to be just before that bad taste takes over. So there's moments of the sort of the bright plaids and clashing fabrics, as well as the craft, the macrame, the crochet. But there's also a sense of this sort of playfulness and play with time that we see in the 1960s, a futurism of where polyester might then have been a great fabric rather than something clogging landfills and causing a weird smell in vintage shops. But also a sense of the angularity, the space age of the 60s, merged with some of the femininity from that period, so puff sleeves, smock dresses, and also a sense of diversity and political progress. So the 70s really becomes a period where women start to wear pants. Trousers and trouser suits are huge at the beginning of the decade and continue in varying forms throughout the 1970s. And it's also a time, 1972, when this diversity of fashion is pretty apparent. So a lot of fashion spreads show the mini, the midi, and the maxi version of the same outfit, the tights, the boots, the flats, the heels, the platforms. There's all these options that are not yet being closed down, and I think some of that again ties into this sense of youth, playfulness, and boutiques. I also just wanted to say briefly about the politics. The pants obviously in some ways tie into women, feminism, a sense of women gaining women's rights, although those rights are still tenuous. There's also the influence of this femininity or dandyism in male fashion. So 72 might mark one of the periods of most experimentation with men's style, more use of what we might consider androgynous dressing, and men flat out wearing dresses like David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and many others. So this sense of playful dressing up for men as well as women, I think, is a key part of the gender the reflection and awareness of gender that goes on at this time. Also, the other thing I think we have to mention is the influence of another kind of dandyism, the black dandy, blaxploitation, and other kinds of ways of thinking about fashion as not just the prerogative of white cisgendered people. So there's a sense that fashion is also a language that has other roots and is spoken differently by people across different races, genders, and classes. And I just wanted to sort of say, coming to today, a lot of this openness and playfulness is something I think marks Gallatin. The interdisciplinarity, the conscience of the time, the awareness of what's going on, the problems of our period. Today, I think we see this in more recent fashion shows where there's been this emphasis in Gallatin around sustainability and green design and the ethics of production that have also come into the fashion show and and are an extremely important part of what the fashion industry is doing today. So I'm looking forward to seeing more playful, sustainable, culturally conscious work later on as we move into looking at the collections for our designers today. So thank you all for coming and enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Jack Hassett, and my collection is Road Racing, A Story of the American Dream. The American dream has been told through multiple lenses as well as mediums. The age-old dream of moving to a new place and succeeding is one that has been rooted throughout the story of America. Road Racing is a presentation of the American dream through racing motifs, silhouettes, and inspirations. Drawing inspiration from vintage French, Italian, and American racing history, the collection connects the broad reach of goals and dreams similar to Gallatin's own ideals. The washes and distressing connects the story to an individual. The pieces and looks act as a gradient, showing the years and evolution of racing, which will be shown through distressing, fits, and silhouettes. The juxtaposition of dirty and powerful can be compared similarly to a crew in its car. The dream for racers is to build the dream car, and for people around the world, America represented the exact place where they could accomplish their dreams.
Hi, my name is Ari Arvand, and my collection is called Return of the Polly Pocket. When I was young, I loved playing with dolls, but none of them stood out to me as much as Polly Pockets. There was something so appealing in the freedom you had when dressing them up. All of their clothes could be matched together. As I grew up, it was sad seeing the franchise lose its magic, and I really wanted to pay tribute to it. This collection is inspired by a combination of nostalgia and the versatility of their clothes. Some of the outfits were directly taken from what the dolls wore, while some pieces have the dolls and their accessories included in them. It's time Polly Pocket made a comeback.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Chen, and my project is called Traverser, Passing of Time, 50 Years and Beyond. Inspired by Gallatin's founding philosophy, the University Without Walls in 1972, Traverser represents the appreciation towards diversity, perspectives, growth, multidisciplinary, and passing of time. Through the project creation process, I re-experienced some of my favorite Gallatin moments, from excitement, joining Gallatin, virtual orientation, participating in GAF, later in my research journey, the Big Walk in 2021, to yearly Gallatin Fashion Show videos. This project represents the 50 years and future for us, the Traverser, in the most primitive forms, materials that are timeless. Materials include silk, mesh, vinyl, and 3D printed biodegradable accessories. Each of the pieces can be connected and restyled, so it's up for each of the pieces can be connected and restyled, so the collection will be genderless, sizeless, seasonal based on spectators' mood and interpretation. This principle reflects Gallatin's and its community's journey throughout the years into the future. The collection consists of 4 looks: Mood, Dill Garden, Galaxy, and Shades of Desert. I hope to evoke a sense of togetherness for people, time, and materiality as we explore the meaning of lived time. I'm a 3rd semester master's student studying art and data science. Specifically, I look to examine agency and impact on artistic creation through lens of humans and environments in the age of artificial intelligence. Through my collection Traverser, I concentrate on wearables that are timeless, genderless, sizeless, and playful. I hope to express theories and philosophy that I actively discussed in class last semester, from aesthetics, phenomenology, art forms, references, to art is a test of time, and clock time versus lived time debate. Materials represent the past and present, while 3D printed accessories represent wearable fashion in the future. The mix and match of materials not only pose new ways to wear, but also reflect the tension between fashion, history, and time ahead.
Hi, my name is Daniel Chronopoulos, and my collection is called Cybernaturalist. In the last 50 years, the exponential development of technology has transformed the way we interact with and understand the world around us. It has helped us, but it's also isolated us from nature and from one another. My collection is inspired by the mutualistic quality of the relationship between nature and technology. Cybernaturalist is on her way to a rave in the forest, ready to dance the night away to biodata sonification of the local flora.
Hi, I'm Professor Mitchell Joachim. This is Professor Peter Anker. Both of us teach at Gallatin a course on designing with climate change. We're very interested in looking at the topics of material and how it affects the amount of carbon that is loaded in the atmosphere. And we're looking forward to showing you guys some of our projects at the Gallatin Fashion Show.
Fashion show, university without walls. The biggest wall around Gallatin is, of course, the financial. That's the elephant in the room. That includes fashion, which is fantastically expensive. So we decided to create, in honor of this show, inexpensive fashion that costs absolutely nothing to start a conversation about expense.
Now, we think the work here is super green, or what we'd like to call socio-ecological design that makes sense for the environment and for our society.
So sit back, enjoy the show, and see what our students created in our class.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sophia Webster, and this is my collection, Chastise. It's inspired by Joan of Arc and a class I took earlier here at NYU. Joan of Arc committed herself and her life to God. That choice is ultimately what saved her and what burned her at the stake. Religion acted as both her armor and suffocation device. The power and respect conquered by devout practice can also beg for an ultimate demise. This collection looks at women's roles and power, specifically how gender ideologies in our society have been constructed and constricted women's empowerment in fashion. Exploring Joan of Arc's story, my capsule collection embraces the duplicity of femininity and masculinity, and forms an ideology of self-empowerment, not self-imprisonment. Joan embodies self as temple, self as power, and self as beauty. My pieces ventured to do just that, be the armor against everyday expectations. By breaking the conceived narratives, one begins to regain power. Drawing inspiration from both traditional armor and menswear, my pieces create a completely new definition of femininity, one that is built on the principle of capability, not weakness, infused with fluid silhouettes with traditional masculine materials and practices. I form my muse, a modern-day Joan.
Here's what they don't tell you. Icarus laughed as he fell. Juliet laughed as she bled. The red rose, by any other name, bloomed through her dress like ink. You kept me like a secret, and I kept you like an oath. There's a bitter triumph than crashing when you should be soaring. The more I give to thee, the more I have, and for both are infinite. Infinity like the oceans, and the roses, and the fire. Infinity like the greatest curse of them all. Because I am the ocean, and I've been the fire, and I'm the forest, and I'm the forest fire, and I'm the forest watching it. And I'm the witness watching it. There is a certain beauty in setting the world on fire and watching from the center of the flames. Infinity is the laughter and whatever comes after. My name is Chloe Weber-Shears, and this is my collection, Soulmate.
My name is Samantha Molina, and this is my collection, With Walls Without Barriers. I created this collection after a hiatus from designing. I quickly realized that designing helped me process things going on in my life, which was most important during the pandemic, where so much was going on and most of us were enclosed in small spaces with nowhere to freely express ourselves. My bedroom became my makerspace, and I was able to transition into a space enclosed with 4 walls into a creative workspace, not without walls, but without barriers, which became crucial to my personal sanity. Gallatin is like that, expressing our creativity as freely as we wish within the walls that don't limit us. This collection is my Gallatin away from Gallatin. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Paris Marcel, and my line is called Priority by P. Priority by P is a new luxury streetwear that kind of blends high fashion couture with everyday wear. It's a new embodiment called Xanderwear, which is all about body positivity. A lot of my garments are either one size fits all or an adjustable situation. Everything is unisex and genderless. And this is Priority by P.
the artist's statement, which is really the project prompt. I think about without walls. Without walls, for an architect like I am, walls connote boundaries and borders and a demarcation of space, the difference between what's inside and outside, here versus there. At Gallatin, as professors and students, we're invited into that space without walls, without borders. So the project that you just saw is one of 4 that I assigned in my good design class, where I asked students to consider what is considered normal, what is the ordinary. We look at the basic t-shirt. How does something become ordinary and basic? How is it so coded in our culture that we almost don't see it? So during the course of the 3-week project, each student is assigned a design principle, and they need to modify their t-shirt, and it had to be a second-hand t-shirt. They had to modify their t-shirt to somehow represent that design principle, but maintain its t-shirtness. So the 3 projects that you saw, and we're lucky to have the designers here tonight, can speak to that. But the way the project works is to actually question our presets. How did some garment that was a working class garment, that was radical when it was first shown in Rebel Without a Cause, how did it become normal or ordinary? Gallatin invites us to enter into those discussions of how something is seen and not seen at the same time. And I congratulate my students and all the student designers for the incredible work they've done in helping us think about our bodies, what we conceal, what we reveal, what we communicate to the world. So congratulations, designers. So with that, Professor Moya Luckett and I will be part of the Q&A, but I'll invite all of the designers to come to join the panel discussion. Thank you, designers.
Do we want to ask them?
To begin, if we can, whoops, we have seats. Do we need extra chairs? We can do that. So again, congratulations, designers. So if we may, starting in the back left, coming across and then to the front, if you would please take the mic and introduce yourself, and so we all know who we're talking to.
Hi, my name is Maria.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm Ari. I designed the Polly Pocket show. Collection.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I designed the Traverser.
Hi, my name is Chloe, and I designed Soulmate.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I designed Cybernaturalist.
Hello, I'm Paris Marcel, and I designed Xanderware by Priority by P.
Hi, I'm Juliana. I was part of the Good Design class.
Hello, I'm XY. I was also part of the Good Design class.
And I'm Jack, and I designed road racing.
Yes. So we have 4 questions so far here from the live Q&A, and I wanted to start with the first one, which we can throw out to all of you. What was your process in designing your pieces? So, anyone want to start, or shall we? Yeah.
Maybe say a little bit how long it took. Like in my class, it was a 3-week project, but again, it looks like a lot of you have worked for quite a long time on some of the other collections. Jack.
Okay.
I'm being professorial. I called on him.
So in terms of the length, it was all of January. I went home for 3 weeks, a month basically. Spent the entire time designing. Started with storyline. I believe that kind of everything starts with a story. So I looked at old racing references, old movies. The film Ford vs. Ferrari was a big influence for that. But yeah, just picking from different references from back then, different designs, logos, graphics, silhouettes, cuts of clothes, and then from there it was just kind of putting it all together. It's very slowly, very, very slowly. And it wasn't until like the last week or so that I kind of saw things put together like where I wanted it to be. So it was a very slow, tedious process, but yeah, very worth it in the end.
Anybody else want to pick that up? That process? Yeah, in the back.
I consider I started my process actually in 2021. Because last year there was supposed to be also a fashion show, but it got canceled. But I was able to incorporate the material and also the theme into this year. And when I designed my looks, I wanted them to be very different, which also represent aspect of time and forms that I really reflect and connected to from 2021 into 2022. And as I continue to refine the design, I'll go to explore different places and see how my looks connect to it. So specifically, the third look, where it's Shades of Desert, I went to Red Rock Canyon, which is part of kind of my hometown in Vegas, where I have the fabric and be in the place and think about how that relates to my fear to pollution and climate change, how that impact us as human. And then the other look, Galaxy, which I try to incorporate part of the 3D printing sculpture into my look. So it's kind of like looking into the future, something we can incorporate in the present, but also things that we can then actively create. So to me, the creative process doesn't end. It's all additive.
Okay, let's have maybe one more person pick up on that, if there is one. Paris?
Okay.
You're about to talk in.
Hello, again, I'm Paris Marcel, and my line was called Xanderwear. My process was actually a little bit interesting because I didn't get to start until very last minute. And so I put that together in about 5 days, and it was a process in itself. A lot of the garments that I make are very empowerment-wise. It's very body positive. It's very adjustable. So I like to go for a very kind of loose but firm fitting situation. Xander comes from Alexander the Great, and it means, the defender of man, the defender of people. So it's a very, body empowerment type of streetwear that's merging a little bit of high fashion together. So that's where I'm coming from.
Great. And actually, our second question is for you, Paris. So if you want to continue. The question is, Paris, what did the gold represent to you?
The gold?
Yes.
Ooh, okay. So I love a little glam on anything in any type of way. So I feel like I am learning myself in terms of, how I come across aesthetically. And so I've learned that I come from a very, developed, constructive kind of situation with a little bit of spazazz. And so I love body paint, and my friend who did the body paint, her name is Ashley. She goes by the Virgin Artiste, and her work is incredible. So I asked her to do a little bit of a situation on my face for the movement, and she came in at the nick of time.
Great. Thank you.
I think we can take questions from the audience too. So I was just wondering, because we're online, we're still getting used to this hybrid moment. I'd love to know if there's anybody in the audience who has questions too. The Dean.
So this is a general question. I noticed two tendencies. Well, there are many tendencies. And first of all, gorgeous clothes. So I'm very happy to see some of them in the audience. That you're wearing them. But the question is this. Some of the looks were very tight-fitting and revealing, connecting to what Louise said about what do we reveal and what don't we reveal. And then a lot of people had like a little oval on the back, or a kind of ribbons, and I don't know how to describe it in the right way, clumpy things on the back or on the side, things that just broke that sense of silhouette. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious. I thought that it was very interesting. They had these sort of moments of, maybe it is pizzazz, a little something, right? That added something. And I wondered what you all thought about that dual thing, that on the one hand, very fitted, very revealing, and then on the other hand, these extra little bows and ribbons and fluffs and balls and extra things that were often attached to the side or the back.
Yeah.
So I was just curious to hear what you guys have to say about that.
XY, you might want to pick that one up first.
Yeah.
Just remind people what was your piece.
I was part of the Good Design collection. It was the shirt with the head coming out of the back.
I was working with the concept of solid and void, and the way I wanted to represent that was to sort of disrupt the silhouette, but also work with it, I guess, because the crux of my piece was the idea of like the solid body versus the hollow t-shirt, with the t-shirt representing this sort of conceptual void and sort of like even coming off of the body, like emerging from the body. And that's why I chose to sort of go with like a tight-fitting actual like torso piece that sort of mimics like the structure of a rib cage even, and then have like a head protruding from the back just to have it emerge from the body and separate itself from the body and like distance the two concepts of like solid and void. Yeah.
Interesting. Anybody else want to take that up?
Yeah, I had a lot of ripples in my collection, and I kind of wanted to address the question, without walls, what would gender be like without walls, and what would gender be like if it was inspired by something other than what we like consider gender now as sex or biological sex? So what if my gender was like defined by the ocean or by tropes of soulmates? And I worked a lot with silhouettes and like waves and like ripples in my clothes like that. And I love the idea of like tropes and of soulmate tropes. If you guys know like the red string of fate, or like you hear a bell when your soulmate walks by you for the first time, and that kind of idea of romance and the ocean. And what if I just wanted to inhibit that as my gender was really what my collection was all about.
That's interesting. Anybody else want to pick that one up? Polly Pocket? Maybe.
Well, for mine, it was like mostly tight-fitting clothes. I took a lot of inspiration from what actual Polly Pockets wore. Some of them were almost an exact copy of what they were wearing, and like a lot of the clothes that they would wear is like tight and colorful and short. So that was basically
you had a lot of, but I would say you had a wider range of body type morphology, body types that you were. So again, can you speak to that? I mean, your models were not what I would consider Polly Pocket size or shapes. Would you agree with that?
Right, yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that I did want to make it more inclusive. Yeah. Because like even Polly Pockets now, I mean, they're still a thing, even though they're not as relevant. They're still not more inclusive. So that was something I cared about. And I also like use a lot of stretchy material so that it could fit a lot of body types. But yeah.
Let's see. Any other questions in the audience? Because we can go back to online. Hello, online audience. We can take a couple more questions.
Okay, so from the online, a question I think probably all of you can answer. How much did COVID play into how you all designed? Yes.
I'll start us off. So without COVID, I wouldn't be designing.
Yeah.
So COVID was a time where I kind of learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about kind of how I want to express myself. And I kind of got into, my sister taught me to sew during COVID. My sister sewed for 5 or 6 years, and I had never touched a machine before last year, right before I went to college. So it kind of completely changed my outlook on fashion, on design, on how things are made, how things are interpreted. Yeah. So it was a lot of just getting to experiment with everything, and it was something that really changed, my trajectory on my life, which has been really fun so far.
Great.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I definitely say that COVID has definitely helped my design experience. I've always had a fascination with fashion and things like that, but I had never, just like he said, had touched a sewing machine. So right before the pandemic happened, I had just picked up a sewing machine with the interest like, okay, yes, one day I'm gonna pick this up. One day I'm gonna try to see what's going on. And then the pandemic happened, and I had nothing but time. So again, like everyone else, I kind of went into a little cubby hole and just started figuring things out. And so because of that, I used to give myself little challenges like, oh, can I make an outfit in a day? Or how long will it take me to make this gown type of situation. I was doing all type of stuff to kind of just play with my mind to see if I could figure it out and how fast would it take me. And so with COVID, I really realized, oh, dang, you give yourself a little time. You really can do anything.
You gave yourself a pep talk. That's great.
Yeah.
I wonder but both of you, Jack and Paris, have spoken about doing things mostly on your own. I wondered if the 3 good design students would say, what did it feel like to design with a group of people and also to learn skills that most people didn't have before? Maria might want to start because she actually created a new type of material even for her shirt.
Yeah, so the class was definitely really interesting to see everyone's work for each project. You know, like especially for the shirt project, everyone, you never know what to expect out of people's design, and everyone had, I wish you guys could see everyone else's designs from the class because they were all spectacular. So for my shirt, it was definitely a really weird idea. So the shirt, I tore up the shirt and made a new fabric using algae and gelatin. So it's an example of a biofabric or a biomaterial, and that's kind of my whole concentration. So how can we incorporate sustainable elements or from nature and design that can be fun and fashionable? So yeah.
Yeah.
And have you any future plans to create any more fabrics or to use those principles in future designs?
Yeah, definitely. I also had another design in the slideshow from the green design or design for climate change class with Mitch and Pater. And for that one, the prompt was turn trash into treasure. And I chose to make a dress using old reusable bags from one of those 15-minute grocery services. So that's another thing I'm interested in, just upcycling from the most random things I can find in my house and just trying to turn it into something fun. But there are so many things that can be done you just don't really realize. A lot of the stuff I've done is also with mycelium, mushrooms, kombucha leather. So definitely if you're ever bored, search up biomaterials. It's a really cool rabbit hole. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions coming through the chat?
We do actually.
We're very and then we're going to have one in the back. Yep.
Yep. So let me just see, because there's more added as I'm speaking. Can we hear more about the design principles for the shirt designs? So that's from your class.
Okay, maybe the one Juliana, you want to say?
So everyone in the class was assigned their own design principle. Mine was reversal. XYU had solid void, and you had deformation. Yeah. And so we each got to individually work on our own principles, and it was really interesting because even though none of our principles were the same, I really think looking at the process, we all kind of inspired each other in very unique ways. And having our own principles really let us explore our own creative paths without being hindered by seeing what other cool things people are doing.
Yeah.
Great.
We have a question either right here or in the back in the red, I think. Oh, yeah, that was me. Hi. I think a microphone's coming to you. Hang on a sec.
Hi, guys. That was a really cool show, first of all. I just wanted to say.
Yeah.
I am not a fashion student. I just like fashion. I think it's cool. So I have a question just actually for both Paris and Daniel. Paris, I saw the fourth jacket that you had, it was white. I was kind of wondering what your inspiration was behind that jacket because I thought it was very cool. And it gave me I don't know, in I'm Middle Eastern, I'm Syrian, and we have this kind of garb that looks a little similar. So I was wondering I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. So yeah.
Again, my design angle kind of encompasses a lot in terms of body type and how things flow, how things hang. And so because I like things to not only push the body, but I also like it to emphasize the body. And so I like things with ties and drapes and kind of collars to frame the body. I wanted to create that one that was almost floor length, but also had some looseness to it in the fabric that I chose. And so the fabric that I chose was a vegan wool that was retweeted into a twill type of situation. And so when I met the manufacturer over on 39th in the fashion district, she was telling me about the fabrics, and so it instantly had this thickness to it that was heavy. And so the pieces that I made this time was kind of geared for more heavier design quality situations, because I'm from California and I realized that all of my things are very loose. You know, it's very loose. And so I really wanted to make something constructed and heavy for a different season or a different, you know, outdoors experience.
That's really cool. Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Did you have another question though?
Another question in the audience?
Oh no, I thought you said you had.
Oh yeah, I did. Okay, yeah. Hi Daniel. I was wondering, I thought your stuff was really cool, super dope. I was wondering also for your pants, and also you talked about like plants being incorporated. So I was wondering if you could like describe that and also talk about like the creation of your pants as well, because those were really cool.
So I made the pants, the blue ones, out of a tarp from Home Depot. And
Because she's not liking.
Yeah.
Hold on one sec. Let's try one more time. The pant. Okay. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, so I made the pants out of the tarp from Home Depot. And I think what I was trying to get at with this collection was, I wanted to mix like club wear, rave wear, with like outdoor wear and things like that. So I included like mosquito netting. There was a metallic tarp too in there. But then also some like faux leather and knits. Because I noticed a lot of similarities, like even just going to like REI or whatever, I'd noticed that like they have cute clothes and it's not really meant for like partying and dancing, but like it could be. So yeah, I kind of wanted to like bring those together because I saw the connection in my head, and you know, yeah.
So, super cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think we have a question down this way or somewhere. There we go. Sorry about that. I see you now.
Yeah, so what was everyone's favorite process of creating the collection? Is there like a favorite piece out of everything that you guys had?
You mean, did the designers have their own favorites within their own collections?
Yes, and also if there's like a favorite part of the whole experience that you really enjoyed.
Oh, that's interesting. You guys want to go one by one and sort of answer? Maybe? Starting in the back, Maria? Sure. Did you have you only...
Yeah, I have a really weird design process because it just kind of starts with an idea and I have no idea how to get it done. So it's always something interesting. So I think for the shirt that I made in Louise's class, that one was the most like, I have no idea if this is gonna work since it's a new material. I had a base recipe, but that was done using cardboard. So I had no idea if it would still work if I used fabric instead. So it was very much like trust the process. I mean, you have to like tear up a shirt and then like cook it over a stovetop with sodium alginate, gelatin, and like play around with the ratios. So it took like 2-3 tries till I got it right. So that was really satisfying once I actually had a fabric using like the most random ingredients in my pantry. So
that's great. Wow. All right, let's go across the back. The idea of, do you have a favorite part or favorite process?
I think my favorite part was, like, outside of just looking at all of the Polly Pockets clothes, is when I just went on eBay and I ordered a bunch of Polly Pockets. And, like I was, like, kind of playing with it and, like, putting their clothes together and just seeing, like, how versatile they are and stuff. And then I, like, really wanted to incorporate Polly Pockets themselves into the collection. So, like, one of my bags that I had, I, like, glued a bunch of Polly Pockets on there. And it was, at first, I was just going to put, like, the Polly Pockets on themselves, but then I, like, started taking them apart and like, I don't know, making it like kind of, I don't know, like have them kiss or like just do like a bunch of like random stuff. So that was fun. And then my favorite like piece that I made and like least favorite was the blue jacket all the way at the end with the fur. Yeah. Just because it was so hard to work with. But then I like ended up liking it the most just because, I don't know, I like the fur with it.
All right, let's keep going. This is interesting.
My favorite part of the process was the shoot, because the first round for lookbook shoot, I actually wear it myself, and then later you could see how many variations of body type could actually fit into the design, and also fitting it onto the model and being able to kind of be playful and incorporate spontaneous and my personality into the show. That was very exciting. And then being able to work with the crew on different directions or angles. And also, if you guys remember at the beginning, we had 2 hands showing the sculpture. So that was something that we just like came up on the spot, and Keith and the crew were able to like encourage us for it. So that was very exciting and fun. My favorite piece was the cow, or the mood, which was the cowgirl with the cowboy hats, but also matching earring and the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jennifer totally reminded me of the lookbook shoe. I totally forgot we had that, but it was so much fun. I had a photographer, her name's Anna. She shot that for me, and my models were there, and it was so awesome. We rented out one of the Tish rooms for shooting. But honestly, my favorite part of the process probably was I did it all on spring break, because I bet all of the designers up here know about like procrastination, but I did it within that month span. So you can imagine like right after finals cramming the fashion show. But my friend who's up there, she got me boba basically like every week. And my favorite part was staying up all night listening to music in my office space and just, you know, working on the clothes and sewing with, you know, music, and it's nighttime and it's like the vibes. And I think that's really what I'm trying to reflect in like my pieces, and it's like that type of energy.
Great.
All right. Yeah.
Danielle?
Favorite process, favorite piece?
I think my favorite part of the process was kind of like present throughout, but so like as soon as I could start working on the collection, like as soon as break started, I got really sick. I got COVID and mono, and
Wow.
much better now, but but oh my god. Anyways, I was kind of just like bedridden, so I was like doodling a lot in my bed, and like eventually once I got more energy, I kind of realized I also don't have money to like buy fabric and things. So I went like into my closet, and I had to like I cut up a bunch of my old clothes, and like sort of found new ways to repurpose and reuse them. And I didn't have a sewing machine once I got back to New York either. So I was like stapling things, hot gluing things. There was actually a point where one of my friends called me at like midnight. This was mid-January. And they were like, yo, we found a sewing machine like on the corner of, I think it was like 7th Ave and something. And I had like 23 missed calls from them. I was like out doing something or like sleeping. I don't even remember, but they ended up picking it up for me. And then,
Great.
so just like a miracle. And then, where was I going with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you, Paris?
My favorite part of the process is only favorable because how it starts. Like, you know, many of us, I don't really have any formal training, so everything that I've done, I've self-taught. And so my favorite part comes in actually looking at something that looks like something when trying to figure out the process. And so going through that and figuring it out and making sure it like fits my body without, you know, knowing exact measurements, without, you know, knowing angles and things like that. It's like, I do not enjoy that part, but seeing the end product, it's like, oh, okay, I learned a little bit more, I picked up a little bit more. And so that part is always, you know, a breath of fresh air. And in terms of my piece, I would say the coat, the vest coat, it's reversible, and it was the first time I made anything as thick as that. And so finding the padding and doing the reverse stitching and making sure that when I took it off and flipped it inside out, that both the belt was reversible for the green side as well as the dark navy side, as well as the straps going up. And so seeing that and knowing that that's capable in my piece is something lovely. So that's one
great.
of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
My favorite part was probably the problem solving that was required to kind of take the ideal version of what I wanted my design to be to then actually making a physical version of it. And it was a hard process, but it was very rewarding. So
Trial and error. What about you, X1?
I think my favorite part of the whole process was just like looking at Louise's prompt and being like, what the hell am I going to do with this? What is solid and what is solid void as a concept? And workshopping that throughout each class. Because originally I wanted to have the head on my shoulder as like a little friend. And Louise was like, that's uneven. I think it's asymmetry now. And I had to like think of different ways to present it. And it forced me to go beyond what I had originally thought and create something more interesting. So the whole project really pushed me, even though it was just like one piece.
For me, my favorite part of the process is everything that happens before sewing. Sewing is just, it kills me. But that's research, creating a storyline, mocking stuff up in Illustrator, finding colors, finding fabrics, drafting patterns. Basically everything but sewing is my favorite part. And then favorite piece is probably just two pieces. With the first look, which is leather pants and a leather jacket, which is heavily based on old racing jackets and racing uniforms. So yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Yes, we have a couple of questions in here.
So this kind of builds off the question that you guys just answered, but I guess I'm curious what each of your processes were like for making these collections. It sounds like you guys are all kind of in different places in terms of design. So I guess I'm just curious, like, if any of you use like CAD for more formal like drafting stuff, or if any of you are interested or like were working more with draping, or if you were kind of just freeballing. Because I also really like sewing, and I'm curious like what the process was in terms of like the physical design.
Yeah, maybe one or two of you want to pick that up. Yeah, Maria.
So for my other design, the getter dress, that was actually my first time sewing. I think it's very funny that I'm in a fashion show and one of the pieces I didn't even know how to sew for. Big shout out to my roommate for teaching me how to sew. Yeah, so I think like anytime I'm tasked with making some sort of like piece of clothing, it stresses me out because it's like, oh God, like I have to just do something again with like hot glue. And so for this dress, I did not plan anything out. I just grabbed the bags and just really went with the flow. It took me like 4 or 5 hours, but that's because I didn't plan anything. It's just like, I think I just kind of go with the flow and see how it turns out. So I never really know what the end result's gonna be, but eventually I kind of reach the point that like, I'm like, oh yeah, like this is it. Like this is a dress. So it's a very weird process and hard to document, but like it always works out. Or actually I have a 50-50% success rate. When it works, it's fun.
Anybody else want to pick that up?
Yeah. So I actually learned to sew for this collection. I'd been like wanting to learn how to sew for a long time, but then this like actually gave me a deadline and I had to learn. And so basically everything I did was based off of like Etsy patterns. And then it was kind of cool to see like later on in my process when I was able to alter the patterns and make something new out of it. So I could kind of see like how I was getting better.
I think my approach, I'm trying to make two very distinct approach. One is more structured, where I wanted to challenge myself. Well, actually, first, a very structured one, I'm trying to use a 3D model. So I designed a 3D model using Moya, and then I play with Adobe 3D Stager to put it into different textile and texture and render it, and then working with the NYU Makerspace staff to try to scale them into different sizes. And throughout the production was super fun and collaborative with the staff. And then the other approach was that I tried to challenge myself to not use sewing machine. How can I connect pieces and materials without using a conventional way? So then what I realized is that there are a lot of, pins that I can use, which then is super flexible. And also for the third piece, Shades of Desert, it's just, I'm following a very structured tying method, connecting each of the pieces and then wrapping around to the model. So then each time, per different, spectator, or how you wanted to wear it based on your mood, it could all be different. So I think that poses a new flexibility if we're not using a conventional sewing way.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think I'm not a fashion designer at all. Tried sewing, hated it. Glad that's a consensus. But the way that I work on any project, because I mostly work with painting or sculpting, I guess, is like I'm a big fan of my sketchbook. I draw everything out and lay out everything exactly as I see it. And this is probably a detriment to me, but I'm like, this has got to be perfect. Otherwise, I'm giving up immediately. It's worked out most of the time, but when it doesn't, I literally just scrap the whole thing and start over. But it's like very focused on like planning and sketching, which I think is the fun part as opposed to the construction. But yeah.
Interesting.
So we have time for one more question. So first of all, is there anyone in the audience who has a question? Yeah. So this will be the last question of the evening.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you all for such great clothing today. I just wanted to ask, for those of you addressing certain social or cultural or environmental themes, how have your own personal experience with these issues been reflected in your clothing and in, I guess, everything that you've done here at Gallatin?
I took a class last semester. I'm a first-year student, so it was my first semester here. It was with Stephen Duncombe. It was Social Construction of Reality. And I feel like that class really just changed the way I thought about a lot of things and about like reality. And I read Gender Troubles, I believe, by Judith Butler. And she was talking about the idea, of course, I think we all understand for the most part that gender is a social construct, but what if biological sex was also a social construct? And that just made me think of, what do I want to represent in the world? Like, if I'm not a woman or a female or anything like that, like I think we all think of like what type of vibe we want to be, aesthetics, like it girl or like, cottagecore and stuff like that. But like fundamentally, what do we want to represent and present ourselves as in the world? And that's really what I wanted to try to answer with my collection.
My perspective is very interesting. So I'm here at Gallatin studying a double concentration in performance and psychology with an emphasis in art therapy. So the objective for me is incorporating mental health into the educational system. And so being a Black person of color from a marginalized community, having accessible resources was always very scarce. And so coming from a creative background, I always had to formulate things to develop the idea that I wanted or the aesthetic that I wanted, while also understanding how I come across in reality. Being a Black identifying person of color, it's very interesting how we have to formulate our appearance to transform into spaces. And so why my clothing line is so body positive or awareness and identity is because for me it's breaking the boundaries of how we're constructed, while also being very fluid and being very, go with the wind, because again, like she said, gender is everything and it's nothing that we all believe. And so taking that perspective and then putting that into my environment of understanding I'm from a marginalized community and understanding like things have not always been easy and how I'm perceived is big on what I can do in this world. It formulates and it translates through that.
Great. Anyone else want to add anything?
I would say my wearable pieces reflect my full journey at Gallatin. I think specifically my interest in nature and how human connect to space and nature and relationship throughout. I think I'm trying to express it using wearable as a medium. So I really don't see it solely as fashion, but it's another layer that add to my multimedia art. And also one of the principles that I'm trying to experiment is from aesthetics theories that I learned from last semester in the philosophy department on how do we use aesthetics and how nature as aesthetics representations can prompt audience to see the intentionality of it, and also how can then trigger unique thoughts that are unique to spectators when they see a specific piece of art or like wearable pieces, how that triggers some thoughts that are positive to the environment.
Great. Any other final thoughts, reflections? If not, thank you all for coming, and thank you to the designers for a great show.
And I'll only add is thank you to the designers for your thinking, your creativity, but your vision for all of us. But thank you especially to Dean Wofford, to Rachel Plutzer, Teresa Anderson in the events department, Jen Burge in the production, Keith Miller, and all of the incredible team here at Gallatin to bring you 2022 Without Walls, Gallatin Fashion Show.
Hey guys, let's take a picture.